Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a look at the astrological transits for July 17th to July 23rd. I hope everybody is ready for this week because I'm telling you right now, however we start this week versus the way we end this week is going to be completely upside down. There's no way else to look at it. There is something that has either already occurred that or is about to occur that is making us flip the way that we see a situation, flip the way we see an individual. It's meant to turn our attention and turn our head in another direction because there is something that needs to be done. There is something that needs to be dealt with. There is something that needs to be purged and overcome and released in some way, shape, or form. Now, for some people, overcoming something and purging something, it's not necessarily meant to be a bad thing. If you have outgrown something in your life, then this release is going to give you peace that you haven't felt before. If you are dealing with the effects of last week, where we are annoyed with a very certain individual, annoyed with a certain situation, coming to terms with whatever decisions have just been made, some of us this last week, we decided to switch up the game. We decided to take a step back from an individual. We took the L. We took the hit. We let something go. We let someone go. We got over a certain situation. And now we are looking at things very, very differently. Now, some of us, we're still in the midst of this turn. We're still in the midst of dealing with this turnaround. And it is this week between the new moon, and this is how we start the week, is a new moon in Cancer, and the end of the week with the Venus retrograde starting. It is this energy, this high, intense level of energy that is going to make us do a turnaround. Now, for many, many people, parts of this week is going to be one continuous theme of energy of just back to 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 back. You notice what I'm doing here. It is an avalanche of different small things that can definitely mount up to the anthill situation. But this ain't a small anthill, baby. This is Texas size anthill. Like, it's big. The thing about hills is that sometimes things come out of it. Many of us are seeing the hill. We have no idea what's about to come out of it. Now, some of us in the last week, we didn't take the L. We didn't take the hit. What we actually did was we connected. We started something. We got the inkling of an idea. We got the first little round of something new. And we have no idea just what we've stepped into. This week, this is getting your feet wet from the beginning. There's no pinky toe dip. It is a cannonball situation. If you just started a job, you just started your new position at your current job, you just started doing something new, what you're going to see this week is that in that turnaround energy, it is going to hit you like a ton of bricks. There are times that we just have to cannonball into the situation, and this is definitely going to be one of those weeks. It is a cannonball. There are so many little transits that are occurring in multiple days this week that the only way I can describe this week is that it's going to be heavy. It is going to be heavy. Sorry, I can't talk now. Heavy in reality checks. It is going to be heavy in the way that we need to see certain things. It is going to be heavy in the information that comes about. But a lot of this information, a lot of things that come to the surface, a lot of the things that get revealed, we don't know exactly what they are. We don't always know what's coming in. We can have an idea. We can have an inkling. If you're connected to things like this, you've got a really good idea of some of the things that are coming in. But if you don't stay in tune with the transits forward and backwards, trust and believe, this is your news forecast. Breaking news. Shit's about to hit the fan. Hi, how the fuck are you doing? It's happening. It's coming through this week. They have so much coming through this week that it can't even be ignored. There's no way to stick your hand in the sand. There's no way to try to pull an ostrich move. You're getting pulled in. When I was sitting here and I was meditating on a lot of these transits, and I was like, of any of these signs, which would be the most grounded? And ironically enough, Scorpio. They're the most grounded because their chart rulers, the chart ruler of Scorpio, is both in an earth sign. So Mars is in Virgo, and of course, Pluto is in Capricorn. But I can't even say that about the earth signs. Like, they're all going through it. Virgo risings, you guys are on the verge of dark nights of the soul, and you're seeing like little things of what feels like you're abandoning of yourself, abandoning of other people. People are abandoning you, and everything's just kind of hitting the fan. Capricorn risings, all of the pressure of so much of the chart, and I'll show that here in just a little bit. It is right on Capricorn. It is right on top of Pluto, and that all starts on Monday. There's so much pressure that's going to be starting in this area. Aquarius rising, Saturn is retrograde, Uranus is in Venus's sign, and the host of Venus is about to turn backwards, so y'all ain't doing very well. Sagittarius and Pisces risings, where is Jupiter? It's in Venus's sign, and Venus is about to turn retrograde. Leo, this is in your first house. Cancers, you're watching it go down on everybody else. I'm not going to necessarily say that Cancers are the most grounded, but y'all are definitely in for a show. Get your popcorn, Cancer risings. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. We're going to get into Monday, and Monday we started off with Mercury square Jupiter. Now, if you listened to last week's episode, the way that I finished off last week's episode is I clearly stated that the Mercury square to Jupiter for a lot of people was intention, an intention of an idea, an intention of communication, an intention of some sort being stated, but that sort was very much talking about future. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to do something else. There is something in this energy that once it gets stated, then the reality has to kick in. If we said we were going to do something tomorrow, this is tomorrow. Monday is tomorrow. If we said something on Sunday. The new moon is not actually going to perfect until midday. So if you're listening on Spotify, I have the screen up at July 17th at 12:33 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the new moon is not quite perfecting at this time, but it's really close. I've got the moon at 24 degrees, 26 minutes. I have the sun at 24 degrees and 53 minutes. They are coming into a conjunction, but it hasn't fully perfected. In the earlier parts of the day, that is whenever the Jupiter-Mercury square actually perfected. So again, in a lot of ways, there was an idea, there was word, there was some type of communication that happened yesterday, that happened over the weekend, that is being impressed now. Now, the one thing I want to say about Jupiter square to Mercury, and on the screen, it's not exact, like I said, it was actually exact very early in the morning, so like 7 a.m., so just a few hours before what's on the screen. But what I want to bring up is these two planets and what they rule. Mercury, of course, rules Gemini and Virgo. Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius. We have another transit that is starting. It actually started the day before whenever all those intentions were being discussed, but we didn't really talk about it because it was just the first little inkling. I'm bringing it up on Monday because this transit, it's building this week. It goes exact this week, and it is a very intense part of the week, and that happens to be Mars and its opposition to Saturn. Hear me out. Saturn is in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter squaring Mercury. Mars is in Mercury's sign. Mercury is in a square from Jupiter. There can be an idea, a word, intention, information, a confirmation of some sort of energy, even on Monday, something that is activated, and this isn't the only activation to Monday, just to be clear, there will be others. We're just getting started. This square can also be a part of the news, the activation, the information that is very much tied to the Mars Saturn opposition that isn't exact for a few more days, but it is going to be exact. Jupiter is imposing a will onto Mercury. There can be something in regards to a hope, a desire, an impression, a long-term goal. There is something here that must be communicated. For some people, the communication is going to be here, but this communication really does feel like confirmation. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm gonna, my flight's going to arrive on Thursday morning, on Friday morning. Like, confirmation of something, a delivery of some level of information, a lesson in something that has just occurred, like confirming something else that is already in the works. It doesn't have to be just confirmation of one thing. You can have a slew of different things that are just kind of getting confirmed right around here. Now, after the perfection of Jupiter and this square to Mercury, we get the new moon. The new moon is going to perfect between 24 and 25 degrees. I'm specifically saying it this way because once the moon and sun get more than an hour apart, more than 1 degree apart, not an hour, by the way, I'm sorry. That's when the nodes change signs. Now, let me show you. Bump this by hour. I know I said I was going to get away from this, but I'm going to keep doing it just because of this new moon energy. Here is the sun at 24 degrees, 58 minutes. The moon is at 25 degrees, 27 minutes. I have it at 2:33 p.m. Central Standard Time, but I bumped this one more hour to 3:33. The moon and the sun are almost a full degree apart. You can see this right here. And what happened? The nodes have changed signs. Now, I said this in the nodal video. If you guys haven't watched that yet, I actually uploaded that yesterday, so it's already viewable for everybody to see. In that video, I went over parts of the way this is starting because so much of the node's energy seems to be patterning the beginning, the very beginning stages of the North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio energy that started back in January of 2022. Now, the reason I'm saying that in particular right here is because the way that went was the sun was conjunct Pluto. The next day was the full moon in Cancer. The sun was still in a conjunction to Pluto. They were just less than a degree apart. And then as soon as this full moon perfected, the nodes changed signs on the very next day. So I think that was like 16th, 17th, and 18th of January. I might be off a day. It might have been 15th, 16th, 17th. But it was 3 days in a row. Sun, Pluto, full moon in Cancer, nodes changed signs. As soon as the nodes change signs on Monday, some of us are going to feel it. Some of us are going to feel other energies at play that are adding additional pressure to this right here. Pressure to Pluto. There is an indirect pressure just as much as there is a direct pressure. Pluto is retrograde, and Pluto will be squaring the nodes for a good 3.5 weeks. We're going to end July in this square. We're going to start the first week of August. I think it doesn't actually separate enough until like August 6th. We're going to start August still in this square. There is a pressure to Capricorn. So what does Capricorn rule in your chart? What does Saturn rule in your chart? There is a pressure to Saturnian things and Capricorn energy to transform, to change, to evolve, to level up. And not everybody is going to be able to handle the level up energy very, very well. Now, in some ways, this pressure is literally going to impact areas of the body. I have spoke to a lot of Capricorn risings that are dealing with certain things. That's really interesting that how many people that I just talked to that they're saying, oh yeah, I have surgery. Oh yes, I have Doctor's appointments. Oh, yes, medical, medical, medical. I'm like, oh, trigger, trigger, trigger. Guys, really? All of this at the same time? Yes, there will be a lot of Capricorn risings around this time that are going to be dealing with medical things. Now, it's not all that way. There'll be others that are going to be dealing with financial things, and I've seen both patterns. But I'm really picking up on the ones that are talking about the medical stuff while Mars is hitting that opposition to Saturn. Because that Mars retrograde that happened last year was in y'all's 6th house of health, Capricorn risings. So I'm specifically saying that right now. There is a pressure to the Plutonian areas of our chart. There's a pressure to the Capricorn area of our chart. There is a pressure to Saturn and its area in our natal chart. Pluto is in Capricorn. This is why I'm saying this. So I would look at where your natal placement is for Pluto, where your natal placement is for Saturn, and I would look for anything that is at this 29-degree mark of any of the cardinal signs. So that's Capricorn, Aries, Libra, Cancer, all 4 of them, because they are highly activated. The 29-degree mark of the cardinal signs is going to be highly activated for a while, and this is where that all begins. This all begins right after the new moon in Cancer. And I'm not going to do a deep breakdown into the new moon in Cancer because that's going to have to be a separate video. We're barely partway through the day. Now, the nodes are going backwards. They always go retrograde in their direction. Pluto is retrograde. This tells me that we're going to go through a few weeks of pressurized time of going back over things that we've already done, things that we've already dealt with, things from the past, things that need to be brought back up to the surface. There are going to be things that we need to really deep dive into before we can take transformational upgraded steps forward. It's going to take a little bit. We're not going to be able to just jump into the things that we want to jump into. And the thing is this new moon is opposite that Pluto. Is it exact by degree? No, but it's really close. Now, the other thing I want to bring up about this new moon is it's not just in this opposition to Pluto. It's not just dealing with the nodes squaring Pluto, but it's also in a trine to Neptune. There can be a flooding of the senses, a confusion, a fogginess, a haze, something that doesn't make sense, something that is not easily explainable. You go to the doctor, where does it hurt? Everywhere. What? Everywhere. That can be inflammation. Body inflammation can be a big thing right now. There can be other things that become inflamed that are, again, not easily explainable, but they're impacting a certain area. There can be areas that are just confusing in our life and we don't necessarily know what we're saying wrong. Nobody understands what they're saying wrong, but you're just triggering everybody. It happens. I've said this to I don't know how many people lately, like, look, I'm going to tell you what I see, and there's a big chance that you're not going to like what I tell you. And that's just it. Like, I don't do this to make friends. I do this because people need to know truthful things in a truthful way. I don't always do this to make friends. Just saying it that way. There is something that is clouding our judgment, clouding a situation. This is going to bring in something new. Is it going to happen directly during the new moon? Not necessarily. Can it happen in the next few days following the new moon? Yes. Specifically because this trine from Neptune, it's not exact. This opposition to Pluto, it's not exact. But it will be by the end of the week. There is a continuous set of energy that is going to activate on Monday. A continuous string line effect of energy that is going to activate on Monday, but it's going to come into fruition at different times throughout the week. It can, in the human effect, you might not know that something is going on until later because it might not be going on with you. It might be going on with somebody else. And a lot of the situation right now, I've said this before, some of us are the support. Some of us we're the players. We're the ones on the tilt-a-whirl. We're the ones in the amusement park. Some of us are in the parking lot because we forgot our wallet. So we feel like we're being left out and we feel like everything is going on without our say so and without our knowledge. But in other ways, we're having to hold everything. And I got the corn dog, I got your bag, I got this teddy bear thing that we could have bought for cheaper at Walmart than all the tickets that we, played. Have fun. Some of us are the support. Now, whatever starts to come through this week, there will be parts of this week that are diluted, convoluted, not clear, not easily explainable. Sometimes this is going to be about another person and the things that they're saying to us. Sometimes this is going to be about a literal situation that is affecting the body, a flooding of the senses, things that are not easily understandable, that are not easily explainable. And it's going to take a few days to really get an understanding as to what we're dealing with. You will start to feel, we will all start to feel the flooding of the senses in some way, shape, or form between Monday and Tuesday. Some of us might feel a little bit on Sunday. The more sensitive you are to energy, the more you're going to be aware of it on Sunday. But for a lot of people, they're not sensitive to energy. And they're not going to be dealing with the full effect of it until the actual transits hit. You know which one you are. And if you don't know, you're going to know whenever it starts to hit. Now, the other thing about Monday is that this is the day that Venus arrives at 28 degrees. Venus is spinning. If you listen to the beginning of last week's episode, I have talked about a lot of the things that Venus rules. And while Venus is spinning, the things that she rules is getting affected. Things on your body, things regarding the physical aspects of your body, food is being affected. Some of us are suddenly realizing we're being triggered by foods and we don't understand necessarily why, like this food is suddenly triggering us. Or we're wanting to try new foods and then we're learning things about that. Some of us are trying to get an understanding to a love connection and our minds are spinning and we can't stop with what is going on. We can't let it go. We can't get over it. We can't overcome it. We have no idea. We're just spinning, locked on this thing, knowing in one way, shape, or form that we're not necessarily going to get the answer, but we can't help but overthink about it. There will be times that if we're not in the foggy, that it's in the spinning. People that are spinning can be spiraling, can be frantic, can be very high in their anxiety. They can be suffering from old wounds and old traumas like suddenly coming to the surface because, again, tilt-a-whirl. Sometimes the energetic energy that must be purged is not necessarily just the corn dog that you ate. It's something else. We've all been in that situation where we've, done something and the only way that we can actually get the release is to cry. So we even do something that we don't necessarily want to do. We watch The Blind Side. I'm going to totally tell myself, let me watch The Blind Side. I will cry every freaking time on that movie. I cry. Sometimes we are going to have to do those things to make ourselves purge that energy, to overcome what we're being overwhelmed by. Because overwhelm is going to be a part of the spinning. It's going to be a part of the spiral. It's going to be a part of the energy that people are dealing with. This is frantic, high anxiety, pressurized week. Very pressurized. Whether you're getting pressure from another person, whether you're dealing with the pressure in your body, whether you're seeing the pressure just in the workplace, whatever it is, there's pressure. And the sad part is there's pressure in two very different areas of the chart that aren't directly looking at one another. So many people are going to be feeling pressure on their body, but it's because of an indirect thing that wouldn't normally affect them. We're still on Monday. Monday's a lot, guys. Okay. What else do I have on Monday? Jupiter square Mercury, Venus is stationing, there's the new moon, and then the nodes, of course, are squaring Pluto. Okay. Now, as the evening continues, I'm still going to bump this by hour just because of like what I'm anticipating here. In the overnight hours from Monday into Tuesday, the moon is going to trine Neptune. Another activation for this energy. The moon is going to hit this opposition to Pluto, and this is going to be the first of 2 hits to Pluto while squaring the nodes. The first one is the moon. This is the one that's exact, and it happens right at the very end of the day. So right now, for those that are listening on Spotify, we're looking at July 17th. This is at 10:33 p.m. Central Standard Time. The moon is at 29 degrees. It has just hit that opposition of Pluto. By midnight, the moon is going to be going into Leo. So it's like just before or just after midnight. There you go. 12:33, the moon is in Leo. So literally it's like right around midnight, the moon goes into Leo. We start Tuesday, the moon in Leo. Now, there is an interesting energy, and this isn't like a contraindication point, but there is something I can't quite ignore, and that is in the overnight, there's going to come a period where the opposition to Pluto between the moon, yes, now in Leo, but still mathematically speaking, opposite Pluto, the sun, opposite Pluto, yes, in Cancer, but not exact. There's a mathematical energy here. Of these two are going to be, at one point in the overnight, equal in their opposition to Pluto, thus amplifying the new moon energy that happened the night before. There is another part of this activation. There is another part of this energy. There's another part that is applying pressure onto Pluto. It's like a wave of pleasure. Not pleasure. Well, pleasure. I mean, for some people, it could be pleasure. There is a wave of pressure. There is a wave of energy. There's a wave of something that comes through in those overnight hours from Monday into Tuesday. So the human effect for a lot of people is that just because the new moon was the day before doesn't necessarily mean everything. There will be things the next day that continue to linger in. That's why I was saying for a lot of people, the new might be on Monday, but it could also be on Tuesday. This is Tuesday. This is day 2 at Venus spinning, where she's going to be for 2 weeks. We have a lot of things that are just like spinning in one place. Oh, so the moon is going to be in Leo most of the day. I like Tuesday in a normal aspect. There's not a whole lot of transits going on. Like Venus and Jupiter are still separating. Not Venus, I'm sorry. Mercury and Jupiter are still separating. But this energy of Jupiter square to Mercury while Venus is spinning tells me that some of the information that was given, some of the direction that was given, some of the topics that were stated, they're going to get revisited on Tuesday going into Wednesday at some point, because the moon is going to enter the energy between the two of them. Now, that's not going to happen until the later. So in some ways, we've had an intention that has been spoken. We have some type of idea that was talked about, again, over the weekend, something that happened the week before, the weekend, that carried into this week. But some aspect of it didn't necessarily make sense. While the moon is going through Leo, the moon is in mutual reception to the sun. The sun is in Cancer, the moon is in Leo. These two are in each other's signs. What's interesting, though, is this particular energy is while the moon is going through Leo, the host, the sun, is going to be going through that trine to Neptune and that opposition to Pluto. So there can be some misinformation, misunderstandings, unclear things, again, diluting the way that we're seeing ourselves, the way that we're seeing a situation, the way that we're seeing a certain topic, the way that we're seeing certain things play out. There can be a false sense of pride, a false sense of hope that's kind of building that takes a few days for the reality check to hit. Takes a few days. Now, At the same time that the moon is going through Leo and going through this odd little energy of like prideful delusion, and that's the best way I can describe it, is prideful delusion. At that same time, Mars is closing in on its opposition to Saturn. There is an action that is trying to occur, that is taking place. There is a very practical set of knowledge that is trying to be followed through. We're trying to follow certain steps. We're talking about the Earth Mercury sign. We like order. We like things to go in a certain way. We like a pattern. We like to establish a pattern. Mars in Virgo will establish a pattern. There is something that we are definitely trying to follow through, that we're trying to work through, that we're trying to create a certain energy that is about to be disrupted, that is about to be dampened or hampered, or however you need to say that. So many of us can start to feel a certain amount of momentum whenever we're going through Tuesday, but that momentum is going to very quickly not continue. So we might actually be able to feel like we're getting some things done. We might feel for a little while that there's a lot of like fun energy in the air, but I'm telling you, in a lot of ways, it is a fallacy. It is a fallacy. Keeping this going, the moon is actually going to square Jupiter, like I said, later in the evening. We don't have a whole lot of going on directly whenever it comes to Tuesday. You have to know more and be able to like read deeper into that energy to understand it. The majority of the energy that's going to be building up is that we can delude ourselves. We can feel a bit of delusion. We can feel the cloudiness. Now, some of us, that cloudiness that's coming in is we're going to be stuck overthinking a situation, overthinking a topic, overthinking something that was just brought to us in the midst of the new moon. And we don't quite have full clarity. We don't have full understanding. We were told one thing, but really it's another. It's in a different direction. It's not quite the way we are thinking. And that is because Neptune is applying its energy to the sun. The sun is us. It is our ego. It is the body. It empowers so much of the individual. Our day-to-day life is very much tied to the sun, going day by day, day by degree. There is an energy here with Neptune imposing something onto the sun. In some ways, it's almost reminding the sun of something. It's reminding the sun that we had some type of spiritual situation, that we had something that was meant to affect or help someone else that we didn't quite follow through on, that we didn't quite get the full understanding of. And we're seeing something one way, not knowing that it's really about to go another. I'm fine. I don't need anything. I don't need them. I don't need all that. I'm going to be fine on my own. Keep saying that. Keep saying that. In the overnight hours from Tuesday into Wednesday, we are going straight into Wednesday. Tuesday doesn't necessarily have like the full parts of the energy. Tuesday's kind of like a carryover from Monday. For a lot of people, we're just trying to understand certain things. We are overthinking the situation. We're really deluding ourselves into feeling a certain way that isn't quite that way. So some of us can be feeling really good on Monday and Tuesday, and then we're going to get hit with a huge reality check later this week. Some of us can be feeling really down on ourselves, and then we're going to get the surprise at the end of the week. We're going to get the other half of that information. We're going to get another part of the situation. Going into Wednesday, Jupiter is going to square the moon right after midnight. So this is going to be For the overnight hours, people, that there's going to be some people that are a little too pushy, like, hey, let's go out for a drink. We're having a good time. Let's go out and do this. Let's try this. Let's just have a good time. I don't know. Yeah, don't. I don't normally go out and just say it that way. Like, just be aware is usually what I usually say. I wouldn't do it this time. I really wouldn't. There can be regrets very quickly. Oh, by the morning hours, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Mercury. This again is why I was saying there can be parts of this overnight hour that we start to reactivate things from Sunday and Monday. We reactivate that energy between the square of Jupiter and Mercury. There is a will, there is an idea, there is an inkling of Jupiter pressing onto the moon. Everybody's feeling good. Let's go do something fun. Let's go do something exciting. Let's go out for drinks. Let's go out for karaoke. Let's go do something. And then the next morning when the moon hits that conjunction to Mercury, the reality to what you just did was like, oh, I shouldn't have had that. Oh, I shouldn't have ate that seafood. Oh, I shouldn't have drank that. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And there's like a nauseating feeling. Now, part of this nauseating feeling is going to be just exactly from that time span. It's going to be Jupiter's square to the moon and the moon hitting Mercury. There's an overinflation of the ego. There's an overinflation of hope and abundance and joy with Jupiter square to the moon. But with the moon being a mutual reception to the sun and the sun hitting that trine from Neptune, we can overindulge Tuesday night and wake up feeling ill from it the next day. We can take something, have something the night before, do something the night before that impacts the next morning. This can be both good and bad. You'd be super excited the night before and you're packing all your stuff up, and then the next morning, all of your stuff's ready to go and you're hopping in the car and you're going for traveling. That can be another aspect. There can be the waking up to an answer. Jupiter square to the moon can also be a question. It can be a lesson. It can be certain things that come through. Some of us, it can be very internal, meditation type questions, dream questions that leave us waking up, again, questioning reality. If we had the question the night before, then maybe the next morning it's the inspiration. It's the idea. It's the inkling. It's the light bulb moment of what we can do taking steps forward. For some of us, it's literally hopping in the car and hitting the road. It kind of depends on where it's falling out in your chart. Feeling like we can hit the road. Feeling like we can hit that confirm button. But there is something that is meant to be seen and understood right here that is the more logical compared to the night before. It's kind of that small reality check. It's a small one. Very, very tiny. Like, we don't need that much sugar. It's okay. If we got a little overindulgent the night before, that would not surprise me, and we can be sluggish, very sluggish on Wednesday. The moon is getting closer to its trine from Neptune. Sluggish, slow, melancholic, not feeling as well as we want to, not feeling quite up to snuff, quite up to par. We're just not quite there. That's okay. It happens. As we get deeper into Tuesday, we're going to also have a square from Uranus to the moon. Now that is going to occur later in the evening. After the moon does its conjunction to Mercury, there's not a whole lot going on. So the one thing I will say for people that don't initially get the full effect, don't initially have the full feeling of what's going on, this can be very productive. This can actually be a really great few days for creative energy, like artist level creative energy, and having inspiration come through that can be showcased and shined in some way. That is one element of how this can play out. But in other ways, it might not quite be like that. Again, there can be that sluggish feeling. There can be that intoxicated feeling. It can be inspired. It can be spiritual. It can be hopeful. But it can also be very diluted and very clouded. We can be a little delusional. I wouldn't normally say that with the moon in Leo, but I'm going to say it this time. I'm definitely saying it this time. Now, Uranus's square to the moon is going to be really interesting. Now, this happens, I have this on July 19th. It is at 9:33 p.m. Central Standard Time. Uranus is squaring the moon. It goes exact in this time span, so between 8 and 10 p.m. This is just after it perfected, so closer to the 9 p.m. standpoint is when the exact is, but I always try to give a good 2-hour range as to when we're most likely going to feel it. Uranus is technology. Uranus is the unexpected. Uranus is the uncanny. And it is the one imposing the will onto the moon. This is unexpected information. This is unexpected questions. This can be technological questions. So having questions come over the internet, having communication come over the internet, having that midnight, I'm going to call it midnight for now, that midnight email from the boss that you're not anticipating. And that midnight email says, hey, why don't you come into my office first thing in the morning? Oh, I don't want that email. No. That can happen. That can very much happen, that Uranus square to the moon. There can be a vibration to the energy, just the need to like break away from people, break away from a situation, do something to kind of shake up the fog. Some of us can actually literally feel part of that vibration, like in our nervous system. And we go through a moment of anxiety. Venus is spinning in place. Uranus is in Venus's sign. So this energy of Uranus square to the moon can literally be like, oh, I don't want to meet with him. Oh, I don't want to deal with that. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. Oh, I don't want to do that. You get no choice. Because part of the next day and part of the energy that plays out is going to really have a heaviness to it. Uranus square to the moon can be fun for some people. It can be just trying to do something exciting and out of the box. I like doing, I always tend to do like group Zooms with certain people, with like certain groups of clients that I have. And they always seem to be during Uranus transits. Those tend to be a lot of fun. But then there's also times that there's that one person that gets on and then you're just like, where did you come from? I didn't even know you existed. I didn't know you were my client. You're not my client. So-and-so brought you. I'm going to talk to so-and-so later. This can be exactly that. It can be out doing something fun and doing something grand and doing something unexpected and running into somebody unexpectedly. Having some type of information come through that intercepts the way that you saw something. Remember, the moon and the sun are still in mutual reception. And the sun overnight is perfecting its trine from Neptune. You might get email, you might get that text message, you might see certain communication, you might receive certain messages, and you don't know how to take it. You don't know to run, you don't know to hide, you don't know quite how to feel about it. Neptune's trine to the sun can really inflate the ego. Oh, I can go talk to the boss in the morning. It's no big deal. It's nothing. It's fine. Whatever, just blow it off. Because we're not seeing things clearly. We can have a very inflated sense of self on these days. And that can leave us to a point to where we're blindsided by something. Some of us can have certain things going on in our body that are starting to flood our senses, and that it's impacting the way that we're thinking, the way that we're seeing certain things. That's Neptune's trine to the sun. That's going on when Uranus is squaring the moon. Now, the thing about the Neptune sun thing, we get that all day. It actually perfects overnight from the 19th into the 20th. So we're in that energy all day on Wednesday. It'd be very easy to gaslight ourselves into anything, into everything. I got this. No big deal. Just feeling ourselves, having a good old time. And the thing is whenever we're having a good time for a long time, we just tend to be a little bit more relaxed with our words. Be aware of that. Because sometimes you can say something and you mean it one way, and they took it a whole different. And that can come out and that can come back around, and that can be a part of this energy. Mars is opposition to Saturn. It's not exact, but it is super close right here. One person can say the wrong thing. It can be taken the wrong way, and it results in immediate reactive energy. It results in something that is nearly sobering for a lot of people. I'm going to keep bumping this forward. We're going to go into the 20th. And we start the 20th. Moon, of course, is still going to be in Leo. And it's going to hit that conjunction to a very spinning Venus. This conjunction of the moon and Venus, now for those that are listening, I have this on July 20th at 9:33 a.m. Central Standard Time. The moon is conjunct Venus. It is actually just past its perfection. So Venus is at 28 degrees 29 minutes. The moon is at 28 degrees 41 minutes. And at the exact same time that this is going on, Mars is entering its opposition to Saturn. Mars, 6 degrees 11 minutes at this time. Saturn is at 6 degrees and 21 minutes. We're there. Neptune is still in a trine to the sun, and actually it has just perfected at this 9:33 mark. So we're in this energy the day before, we're still in it the next day. We saw things going one way, but whenever the moon makes that conjunction to Venus, this spinning, manic, spiraling, confused, infuriated, reactive, because if you are spinning in place for so long in a fire sign, at some point things are going to come out. The thing about Venus spinning in the fire sign, this fire sign, the fixed fire sign, whatever comes out of Venus's mouth around this time, oh, she means it. Whatever comes out, whatever pops off at the mouth, that is deep. That's deep passions. That's an old feeling. Those are ways that feelings have been for quite some time. And it's almost a reality check. You've been vibing for the last few days, feeling so good, doing whatever you want to do, feeling like everything's going to be great. The moon makes this conjunction to Venus, and Venus goes, ah. You don't feel so good anymore. You're not so hyper. In some ways, it just kind of showed you a light. And it's making you realize, oh, maybe I have been a little bit deluded the last few days. That's probably not the word that you're going to say. I've probably been stuck on myself the last few days. I've been feeling myself the last few days. Now I can see that's bothering other people. Just because I'm vibing doesn't mean everybody else is vibing. Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. The other thing about the moon's conjunction to Venus is that you can encounter somebody that is also going through situations, not necessarily as planned, but that can be very disruptive to you, disruptive to them. There is going to be a disruption to Thursday. The moon's conjunction to Venus is like walking into the room and seeing somebody laid out on the floor. This is one example. Not everybody's going to do this. Humor me. Are you okay? I just got dizzy. I don't know why I got dizzy. Yeah, we need to get you up. We need to take a look at you. We need to see what you're doing. We need to see what's going on. You know, this is literally that confused level of energy. This is that unclear type of energy. This is that energy that activates vertigo in certain people. Oh, I'm just feeling lightheaded. I think my blood sugar's low. Well, let's check it. Eat an apple, eat some fruit. Let's do something to kind of balance that. If that's not working, we need to do something else. And it is in this timeline on the 20th. So in the earlier parts of Thursday, when the moon hits that conjunction to Venus, until the moon goes into Virgo, that we have this very sombering moment of seeing the reactiveness of somebody else. And that quickly taking us from feeling really good and feeling good about ourselves and feeling something else to kind of shutting that energy down. Now, some of us are going to be the one that had the vertigo. Some of us are going to be the one on the floor going, I don't know what just hit, man. I don't know. And we're going to have that energy, that person, that individual that finds us and then goes, where are we at? What just happened? They're completely confused. You're confused. Everybody's confused. That's fine. Confusion is a part of this week. However, this confusion is also going to be met with a reality check. The reality check has waves of times that it's going to come through this week, but it comes through in the later part. We can be very deluded in the first part, but by the time we get to the end of the week, wherever we thought everything was going great, flip upside down. It's flipped. The flip happens around this time. This is in the early morning. The moon makes this conjunction to Venus. Mars is opposite Saturn. If people are having an issue with vertigo, having an issue with their head or something like this, do not take it lightly. If they're having an issue with their blood pressure, do not take it lightly. If they're having any type of issue physically in their body, do not take it lightly. They are being grabbed by this energy. There will be people that feel sick. There will be people have their migraines triggered. There will be people that are going to physically feel the energy this week. This day is a hyperactive day for this. It is highly activated. We're going to see people with their water break. That can be a lighter way to deal with that. Like, you're not due for 3 more weeks. Didn't get a vote. Didn't get a vote. There can be other things that come to the surface, that get revealed, that get understood this week. After the moon leaves its conjunction to Venus and goes into Virgo, the dizziness, the confusion, the deludedness of not fully knowing what was going on, that goes away. When the moon goes into Virgo, it's now going to be hosted by Mercury. It's not going to be dealing with the lingering effects of the sun and Neptune. Do we still have this area of confusion that we need to get clarity on? Yes. Is there something old, in the body or in the situations? Is there old connections and partnerships? Is there old promises of some sort that are coming back to the surface around this time? Yes. And it is somewhere between the 20th and the 22nd that we are forced to go from feeling really good and kind of happy and kind of, in this delusional fog. I'm telling you, it was a fallacy at the beginning part of the week. To facing a fear and facing a trauma. And it is any time after the moon goes into the Virgo that we have to face it. Now, the one thing that I wrote about whenever the moon goes into Virgo is it's sobering. For some people, it is getting the message. It is getting the enlightenment. It is having that meeting with the boss and then going back to your desk going, well, if I get wrote up again in the next month, I'm going to get fired, and I need to be aware of that. It's going in and sitting down with a person and talking with them about what just happened to them and trying to support them and trying to get them to understand. Some of us, it's dealing with the harsh reality of what an authority figure is saying, what a respected individual saying. It is trying to deal with the disruption that is tied to an elder. There's a reason why I'm saying bodily this week. It's not fun. Mars is the god of war. You guys have heard me say this before. All during that timeline that Mars was in Leo, I kept saying, this is the god of war with the machete, and he's... Mars in Virgo is far more critical. He's still making space. Now he's making space for Mercury, but Mercury is quite a ways away. About 2 weeks. But this opposition to Saturn, this is a transit that only occurs once every 2 years. The last time this would have occurred was back in July of 2021. And that included like the Saturn Uranus square. So that was a whole different set of energies. We don't have a fair comparison in recent years to compare this to. Mars is driven and motivated. It is our ambition. It is our passion. This is what I want. This is what I desire. This is what I plan to take forward. This is what I plan to create. This is what I'm planning to work on. And in this opposition to Saturn, this is like your boss going, I didn't approve that. I didn't approve that. I didn't say that you could go there. I didn't tell you could have these days off. I didn't give you the budget for that. I didn't say you could do that. I didn't give you permission to just go off and gallivant with your friends. I didn't say that you could do that. I didn't say yes or no. And we get hit with a bit of a brick wall. Anywhere between the 20th and the 21st. This is whenever it is the most activated. However, the human effect is this was building all week. So at any point before the 20th, the reality check can set in. However, transit-wise, it doesn't hit until the 20th. There is an opposition. There is young versus old, experience versus ambition. There is authority versus the rebel without a cause. I'll do whatever I want. No, you won't. You think so, but you won't. As the day continues, the moon in Virgo, reality, practicality, understanding, we can still have a very inflamed, I'm going to say inflamed now, sense of ego because Mercury is in Leo. The sun is still in Cancer, and there's like that layered effect now. Mercury's in the sun sign, the sun is in the moon sign, the moon is in Mercury's sign. So ting, 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 ting. There can still be a layered effect here. So we are getting better information. We are processing the information much, much better. But we still got a bit of ego. We still don't have all the information. We still don't have all the clarity. But we're a lot more practical in the way that we're dealing with it compared to the days before. As we get later into the day, the moon is going to enter that opposition to Saturn and make this conjunction to Mars. And this being the most mundane way is like you disrespected your coworker by doing this, and this is why you're in my office this morning. I didn't realize I disrespected her. You should probably go apologize. Okay. Like that can be one way of doing it. The very mundane way that this can come through. Another way that this can come through is that we've had a disruption, something that you've been working on a process, something happened with a parent or an elder or an authority figure, and that disrupted your day. If the boss didn't come into work, you might have to step up and be temporary boss. If something's going wrong with grandpa, you might not be going to work this day. When the moon comes into this conjunction with Mars in the opposition to Saturn, this is support. This is additional help. This is information. And there is some enlightenment in the moment. Why do I say that? Right as the moon is hitting this conjunction to Mars, you can see it right here, the sun is starting to enter its opposition to Pluto. Now, it's not exact, and it won't be exact for a while, for a few, I say a while, like hours. But we get the first inkling. So this is, if we were to put this in like an idea of like a method effect of a couple different things, this could be one evening, you get the email, come in, see me the next morning. The next morning, you get slapped with reality that you've been slacking off too much. You've been having too much fun. You've been, not meeting your goals. Boss gets on to you the next, and then By that evening, it's coming to terms with that. It's telling your significant other about it. It's talking to your other coworkers about it and them either confirming or denying exactly what just happened. If grandpa, because sometimes it's grandpa, if you talked to grandpa, everything was good 2 nights ago, and then the next day, not so good, and he's the one that was on the floor. He was the one that was dealing with dizziness. He's the one that couldn't, get his bearings about him. And now all of a sudden you're getting the call to go to the hospital. This is that type of connected, one thing after another, chain effect level of energy. There's so many of these little transits that once we get to this one hyperized point of the week, that the only way I can describe it is that there is a chain effect going on. And even if it doesn't directly look like it's tied to what's going on, it is tied to what's going on. You just can't see it. Now, when the moon makes this conjunction to Mars, for some people, this can be support. For other people, this can be stabilizing. This can start the enlightenment of digging into the surface and dealing with something from the past, dealing with an old wound, dealing with trauma, dealing with this thing that has just been activated. This is a disruption. This is authority. This is elders. This is somebody not giving you permission for your vacation days. This is somebody telling you, no, you can't repaint the room. You can't reorganize the garage. But the reason you can't is because something else is going on. Something else needs to come to light. Something else that isn't easily recognizable because the sun is still in this moment in a trine from Neptune and entering its opposition to Pluto. Now, one of the reasons that you might not be able to continue is because you were told misinformation. That Mars trine to the sun, these days of in timeline that we were dealing with, part of the reason that we were in a fallacy or deluded was because we might not have been getting told the truth. And now by the time the moon hits its conjunction to Mars, we're starting to realize we weren't told the truth. We were starting to realize we drank the Kool-Aid. We're starting to realize that's not what we thought it was. Oh, I'm going to keep going by hour. Of course, we're now on July 21st, so we're now on Friday. The moon's conjunction to Mars actually goes exact just between, 12:30 and 2:30 in the morning. So we're dealing with this in the overnight hours. So some people are going to be in a hospital room. I'm not even going to deny that. Some people are going to be in a place that's not a part of the plan. And if you know that going into it, it's going to make it much easier to deal with. You're going to get certain information that is going to cause disruption. There's going to be tensions and arguments because Grandpa only called one person, and it's probably the person that doesn't call the rest of the family. So the reason everybody's so delayed in finding some of the parts out is because you didn't make an effort. They didn't make an effort, whoever it is. It's probably Joe again. For those that remember, whenever I spent an entire month, picking on an imaginary person named Joe. Now, as we get deeper into Friday, Mars is still in the opposition to Saturn. There's still a disruptive energy. So parts of the disruption could be on Thursday. Some of it can be on Friday. It can play out at any time. While the moon is still in Virgo, it's going to also enter a trine from Jupiter. So I do like this. We started this week with a Jupiter-Mercury square. Now the moon is in Mercury sign in a trine to Jupiter. This could be calling somebody back going, hey, we talked about meeting, we talked about doing this, I was like, oh, yeah, I just meant in the future. Like, I figured we could get together again in the future. I wasn't trying to set a date. It was more just kind of like a universal tone of like, we should hang out more often. Oh, well, I was misinformed. Oh, I got that wrong. I didn't understand. This happens as the sun is entering that opposition to Pluto. Now, Pluto's at 29 degrees. The sun is going to oppose Pluto and square the nodes. This is going to look like a target. And we've already had another target activation. It happened right at the end of Monday going into Tuesday, when the moon was opposite Pluto and squaring those nodes. The sun now, coming into this point, is going to put a heavier emphasis. Where the moon's opposition to Mars could have been an emotional trigger, the sun's opposition to Pluto is going to make us see something. It is going to make us see the transformation. It is going to make us see the changes. It is going to make us see somebody else's level up in what they have done, or it is going to make us face fear and face frustration. It is going to make us have certain conversations that we've been putting off and procrastinating. We've been avoiding. No timestamp involved. Avoiding in some way. Where is Pluto? In Saturn's sign. What's Saturn doing? It's in an opposition to Mars. If Grandpa is in the hospital, then the sun's opposition to Pluto could be finding what triggered all of the events. What triggered the situation? Did we have a spike in the blood sugar? Did we have a spike in blood pressure? Did we have something else going on? The sun's opposition to Pluto can be facing the piper about whatever convoluted thing was going on earlier in the week. Maybe you thought you just went out for drinks, but come to find out there was something in that drink, and the reason you were sick the next day was because of something else. And this is the reality and understanding and coming to terms with that. Maybe Mars' opposition to Saturn isn't necessarily playing out in your chart as just two situations. Maybe it's you coming to terms with what just happened and having to go talk to the authorities and go talk to an individual and go deal with the situation. Because remember, Venus is spinning and Venus is slowing down. Venus is literally going to turn retrograde in the next 36 hours. There is something in the energy that is about to make us shift our mindset, shift the way we're seeing someone or something. This Jupiter trying to the moon, there's understanding here. Well, she gets this way. Well, he has a past. Well, there can be something that needs to be understood, that needs to be broken down a little bit better, that needs to have a critical understanding. And this understanding can come from somebody that we trust, somebody that we not necessarily see as an authority figure, but see as an expert, see as somebody that can give us guidance, that can be a teacher, that can give us the lessons. There is something here that is very much about offering assistance and offering aid and offering help, offering support and understanding. Mars is still opposite that Saturn, so it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a whole new thing. It feels like it's tied to the other events. And even if in the moment it feels like it's tied to something else, it's very likely not. Energetically, it's very likely not. Oh, I'm going to keep going. Right now, this whole time I've been talking, the screen has been at 12:33 p.m. Central Standard Time on July 21st, so I'm going to keep this moving. The moon, of course, is still going to be in Virgo. The trine to Jupiter is exact from 12:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon, so and that's Central Time. So for some people, that's going to be, that late morning appointment. Some people, that's going to be your lunch appointment. If you're on the Eastern coast, then it's going to be just like right after lunch. It's going to be an afternoon thing. It'd be something popping up at the closing table, like, oh, I needed to know this because of this. I'm like, oh, that's not at all what I thought it was. Okay. As we continue through Friday, the sun is going to hit that 29-degree mark, and it is actually going to hit its opposition to Pluto between 11 and 11:30 at night. So right now I have it at 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, July 21st. So this is Friday. The moon, of course, is still in Virgo. We're still on Friday. And this is when the sun hits that opposition to Pluto. This is when it is exact. However, the energy can have played out anytime during the day on Friday, and the energy can play out anytime on the day on Saturday, because the human effect of facing a fear, seeing the transformation, getting an inkling of what needs to be done, getting an understanding of how something needs to play out. It can play out at any of those times, in this 48-hour time span. Now, we're going to get into the 22nd, which is going to be Saturday, July the 22nd. The moon is going to be in Virgo all day. It actually will change signs right after midnight. So we're still dealing with the moon in Virgo. We're still dealing with very critical information. We're still trying to get different understandings. I'm going to keep bumping this forward. On the 22nd, we're falling out of the cloud. We're falling out of the fallacy energy. Notice how I'm saying the fallacy, because the sun is separating from that trine with Neptune, but it's still in that opposition to Pluto. So we had one way that we saw everything that could have been sunshine and rainbows. It wasn't necessarily true, whether that's because we were confused and deluded or because somebody lied and was shady, whatever that was. The sun's opposition to Pluto is making us kind of face something. Face reality, face a fear, see something differently. This sun's opposition to Pluto is happening in a square with the nodes. I cannot stress this enough. This is an activation. This is so quickly happening after the nodes change signs. This is a target activation point right here. We must shine light on this area that must be transformed. We must see this area that has already been transformed. We must face a fear from the past. We must face the situation that we are not wanting to deal with, but it has a critical effect on us. It allows for us to process things indirectly. It allows us to process things in a whole other area of our life. We're realizing this old wound and this old trauma and this old situation has held us back from something else. And the reason we haven't been able to get that going, the reason we haven't been able to deal with it, the reason we haven't been able to succeed in taking something to the next step, into the next stage, is because we hadn't faced this. We hadn't dealt with this. They haven't faced us. They haven't owned their shit. Not all of us need to face the fear. Some of us, we are the fear. Hi, I'm Pluto. Sometimes I am the fear. Says a Scorpio rising. Okay. Now, whenever we're going through the 22nd, in the early morning, the moon is going to hit a trine from Uranus. This is happening right before Mercury squares Uranus. This happens tomorrow. This happens on Sunday. But it's building when the moon hits the trine. This is an intention. Hey, you're coming up to see Grandpa, right? You're coming up to the hospital. You're going to come. Yeah. I'm going to be there tomorrow. Future intention. Getting an understanding for something that is going to occur. Do you tell everybody that so-and-so is coming to see Grandpa? Nope. They might make the decision and not tell you. This decision might not even include you. They might say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and go up and see Grandpa. Does anybody been up there? They want to talk to him? Nope. From what I understand, it's just him and Joe. Because I'm blaming Joe for everything again. So there has to be something that we deal with. And there's something that we're going to do. There's something that we're going to face. We've made the decision. We've learned of the situation. We've learned of the wound. We've learned of the trigger. We've learned what has happened. Pluto. We're out of the fog. The sun is separating from Neptune's trine. There is an action that is going to occur, but it needs the time to get there. So whether that's travel time, getting off of work, just dealing with whatever you're dealing with on this day, it's not a heavy day per se. It's not even a heavy week per se. It's the spinning energy of Venus and the pressure that's falling onto Pluto that is adding the weight to this week. It's adding to the effects of this week. It's adding to the disruptions. So for some people, they can't easily break away from something. They can't easily put everything in perspective. But that's okay. Oh, now as Saturday continues, Saturday can be a little frustrating. I'm going to fast forward the hours a little bit. We're going to get to right around the evening. Now the sun is about to change signs. Now while the sun is about to change signs, the moon is going to hit this opposition to Neptune. Well, we think we know what was affecting Grandpa. We think we know what caused that vertigo. We think we know what caused this inflammation. We've got an idea, but we don't know for sure. We're going to have to confirm. We're going to have to do something else. We need to do a surgery. We need to do another event. We need to do another scan. We need to get a closer look. Or maybe it was the closer look. Let's say we did the scans for Grandpa that now reveal what the inflammation was, what the unknown thing was. As the sun hits this opposition to Pluto, if you think that the complaint that went to your boss is bullshit and it's a lie, maybe this is you trying to prove it, even if you're just proving it to yourself. It is uncovering that there was miscommunication, that there was misinformation. Maybe you have been seeing something very, very sneaky going on, and you have had to take parts of these few days to get an understanding as to what happened, how this occurred, where, in what way was this necessary. And in this energy, when the sun is leaving its opposition to Pluto and it's about to go into Leo, the moon is in this opposition to Neptune, and Mars is still in the opposition to Saturn. They're just separating. They're just over 1.5 degrees apart. So there's still this disruptive energy tied to an elder, tied to the authority figures, tied to someone else. There's still this disruption that is being faced. Some of us were getting the results and finding out what it was and what caused the situation. Some of us are uncovering lies and facing the truth and facing fears and facing that this isn't what I thought it was. That person isn't who I thought they were. This situation isn't what I thought it was. And in this moment, a turnaround begins. Why do I say that? Because the moon is still opposite Pluto. Right as the sun starts to go into Leo, Venus turns retrograde. Right here, literally by the minute. At 8:32, Venus is direct. At 8:33, Venus turns retrograde. This is the minute that Venus turns retrograde. Right as the sun is about to go into Leo. There is something that is uncovered. There is something that is seen. There is something that is faced. There is something that is dealt with that immediately results in a turnaround in their situation, a turnaround in another person's way of thinking, in your way of thinking, in the way that they saw the situation. There is something in this energy that makes us realize this is bigger, this is heavier, this is more real. Now that reality has set in, now that the reality slap has happened, it's very easy to avoid situations and not pay attention and just kind of tune out. But sometimes you can't tune out. You can't stay hidden at home. You can't stay in the closet. You can't stay hiding in the garage or in your shop or wherever you do your projects. You will have no choice but to be a part of the world and to be pulled into something. And so many of us are going to be getting pulled into situations this day. We are going to be facing things. People are going to be challenged. This can be both good and bad whenever I say challenge. Some people are going to do very big fears, like we're going to overcome certain fears, and it's going to, again, kind of inflate our ego, but it's going to inflate us in a more practical sense. If we're doing some type of competition that we've been, trying to psych ourselves up for, and we finally do it, we nail it. The moon's opposition to Neptune is literally going to be that. It's going to be that inflated sense of appreciation, but it's real. It's a practical appreciation because the moon's in Virgo. That's like getting all the perfect scores. You nailed that triple moonsault, blah, blah, blah. I'm not good at that stuff. Just bear with me. You nailed it. You didn't think you could, but you did. And not only that, your score is fantastic. So that can be a positive way. If you started this week training for something great or big, and then you get to the end of this week and the big happens, then this is the turnaround, because this is now confirming good things for you. This is confirming something for you. It's allowing you to see something differently. It's going to allow you to see your practice and the things that you've been working on differently. For other people, this is going to be heavier. And we're going to face somebody from the past. We're going to face somebody that used to hold power over us. We're going to be facing a fear, or we're going to face somebody that is going to make us overcome fears. The sun rules Leo, and Venus is turning retrograde here. The sun is in this opposition to Pluto. It can be in this moment where Pluto is seeing the sun person. Me, I already said this, like, I'm Pluto. Sometimes I'm the fear. I'm being a smartass now. So now this is like me having to face somebody that can enlighten the situation, that can provide faith, that can provide hope, that can be a respected individual that creates a turnaround, a respected moment that creates a new energy to turn things around, to turn a situation around, to turn people around. There is something in this timeline while the moon is in the opposition to Neptune, but also with the sun going through the trine to Neptune, the sun going through that opposition to Pluto. There's something in these few days where we are not clear on what's going on. A lot of us are going to be like really happy-go-lucky and floaty and just kind of like doing our normal thing going, she didn't know what she's talking about. And then we're going to get to the end of the week going, what just happened? This is the end of the week. What just happened? Now, as we continue through Saturday, as we wrap up the evening, the moon will go from its opposition to Neptune to the trine to Pluto. So if we're dealing with the doctor situation, by the time the moon hits that trine to Pluto, the sun is in Leo. Venus is now retrograde. The moon applying to Pluto applying back to the moon, it's kind of like the doctor going, so you've been eating a lot of sodium? Have you actually been staying hydrated and drinking your water? Have you been doing this and this and this and this? No, and that's why you're here. It can be as simple as that. You have to do something different in your diet. You have to do something different in your health. You have to do something different in your routine. You have to take things differently. You have to do whatever he says. And the sun's opposition to Pluto is enlightenment to that. And now Venus turning around is making us go, okay, back we go. Try again. Revise the situation. Revise where we're at. Now, it is on Sunday, so I'm going to keep bumping this by hour just to get us into Sunday. And then once I get to this final point, I'm not going to really bump the screen anymore. It is on Sunday that we get that square between Mercury and Uranus. And I'm just moving this to the more exact time span. Sure, that works. So I have it on July 23rd. This is at 4:33 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have Uranus at 22 degrees, 32 minutes, squaring the moon, not the moon, squaring Mercury at 22 degrees, 31 minutes. We are close enough for government work. It's fine. Mars is separating from its opposition to Saturn, so we're starting to be able to not be so focused on this authority figure. Some of us, like going off some of my home building examples before, maybe you thought you were about to take a house to sheetrock, you got those inspections back, and it was just like full of red flags. Like, nope, you have to go fix this, this, and this. You could spend the entire weekend fixing things to pass an inspection. That can be a very mundane way. You can also get to this point where we start to realize, like, okay, that was scary. That was crazy. Now we realize what we got to change. Now we realize that we got to do differently. Uranus's square to Mercury can be exactly that right now. As like, okay, we know exactly that we need to do things differently. We have this event has now made it very clear that we have to make changes. And Uranus's square to Mercury can be exactly that. The moon is in Libra all day. After the moon hits that trine to Pluto, it goes into Libra. And when it comes to like moon transits, it's not a heavy moon transit day. But the moon is in Venus's sign, and Venus just turned retrograde. So whatever occurred the day before, now we're on the turnaround. Now we're kind of in a dwelling mode, in the sense of like trying to realize what we need to do to turn this around. How can we restore balance? Can balance be restored? Not every time can it be. What can we do differently to try to correct some things, make some corrective actions? Uranus's square to Mercury can be the very unexpected side of the news that we're not anticipating. It can also be the unexpected arrival. Remember I said the day before when the moon was in that trine to Uranus, like, okay, maybe I'm just going to go see Grandpa. I'll go tomorrow. Nobody else is going. It's just me. It's just me. And then this is the next day. Mercury square to Uranus is like, hi, Grandpa. How are you? It's been a hell of a week. It's been a hell of a week. And again, it's still making us see something, because even in this moment, the sun is still opposite Pluto. The sun is in the different sign. But mathematically speaking, we are going from, 180 to 179 degrees. There's still an opposition here. There's still something that we're dealing with. We've still just had something come to light that is making us turn around the way that we've been doing something, the way that we've seen something, the way that we've been dealing with something. There's still a turnaround by the time we get to Sunday. Uranus is in Venus's sign, and Venus just turned retrograde. Uranus's square to Mercury can be explaining the turnaround, explaining what just happened, but it's explaining it to somebody that wasn't involved, getting somebody else up to speed, giving them the unexpected news, the unexpected outcome, the unexpected results. There is something unexpected when it comes to Uranus's energy. And this is squaring Mercury. We started this week in Jupiter square to Mercury. We're ending this week in Uranus's square to Mercury. And I feel like whatever goes on in Virgo, with the moon going through Virgo this week and Mars' opposition to Saturn, that energy, I feel like, is tied to the Jupiter Mercury square and then the Uranus Mercury square. More so the Jupiter Mercury. Uranus can just be the unexpected results, the unexpected idea, the unexpected situation. My boss is going to write me up for stuff that I didn't do. Fine, I'm going to quit. I'm going to look for a new job. And Uranus's square to Mercury could be literally last week, oh yeah, I'm so excited. I'm taking on a new position. This is going to be fun. 2 days later, that noise. And we get to the end of the week going, that's not how I thought anything was going to go. This is not how I thought I was going to look at this. This is not how I thought this week was going to go. This is not what I was anticipating. I don't know if I'm even going to stick with the same company. let alone the new job. I don't know. But there's unexpected information. There's an unexpected dialogue that's going to occur. There's unexpectedness to Sunday. Beyond that, not having a whole lot of moon transits going on, having now more separation between Mars and Saturn, some of us are going to go home and look at the remaining areas of the house and everything. It's like the aftermath situation. Some of us are going to be needing a way to deal with the restless energy. If Venus's turnaround with this opposition of the Sun and Pluto, we might need to work out some frustrations. The turnaround could be the way that we're seeing an individual, the way we're seeing certain events, the way we're seeing certain activities. And now we need to purge some of the energy. It needs to be released. We need to find some level of peace. We need to get back into balance. That's not going to be easy because I'm used to saying Mercury on a retrograde. We say that one far more often than anything else. Venus is spinning and spiraling and shifting and changing. Now, let's talk about that manic thing again and the spiraling effect again. The people that are in the Venus spinning energy, they will start to become far more reactive, and they're going to say certain things. It's just going to fly out of their mouth, but whatever they say, they definitely feel it. That is truly their feeling, because we are talking about fixed fire, long-term fire, long-term passions, long-term passion projects, long-term ambitions. There is things that can be said that can pop off at the mouth, but they very much mean what they say. That's going to also have effects. And if you're popping off at the mouth because you don't fully know what you're saying, the Sun in that trine to Neptune all week, being very, very deluded to a situation, and then having to face a reality or face a fear, or having fear or something unexpected show up at your door. You're like, oh, and it's going to do nothing but make you face them. If you thought you were going to keep chugging along in your way and screw them, they're in the past, I got blocked and everything, then they show up at your door. Doesn't matter if they're blocked. They showed up at your door. And that means you're going to have to deal with that. And you have to face that. Unexpected guests can have unexpected problems. The Sun going through Libra, while Venus is now newly retrograde, means we're going to look for ways to regain balance and restore some level of balance and get things back up to speed. But it's not going to be quite the way we are anticipating because Venus is retrograde. The balance is in temporary energy. So you might come to a temporary solution, conclusion, result, but it is temporary. It's temporary because Venus just turned retrograde, and she'll only be this way for 40 days. By the time we get to the very 1st of October, Venus will be back in this area of the sky. So understand we are in temporary energy. If you have people come back through during this time, unless they have a natal Venus in retrograde, that's a whole different part of the conversation. But if you have somebody come back through around this time, it might be a temporary thing. If you have people that it's highly triggered during this time, still we're in temporary energy. And I'm saying that loosely because I'm not looking at people's charts. I know I've said this to people in individual readings, whether it would be temporary energy or not. For some people, this can activate long-term things. We can make long-term decisions in retrogrades that we later regret. There is something here, though. By the end of this week, there is going to be topics, a situation, motivations, ideas, agreements, situationships that we are going to see differently. If we didn't deal with it the week before, We're going to be forced to deal with it this week. If we dealt with it the week before, we could make very strategic, hopeful, intelligent actions. We could take certain things a certain way. But now, Mars is in a different sign. And Venus is spinning. And for a lot of people, it is going to result in having to go back over things that we've already dealt with since the middle of June. People that have come through, topics that have been stated, events that have occurred. I shouldn't say the middle of June. I should actually say the 1st of June, since the day that Venus entered Leo. So that would be June 4th. Things that have happened since June 4th are going to start to come back around. Not all at once, but over a period of time. Whatever we deal with at the start of this week, we're going to end it in a very different mindset. We're going to end it in a very different energy. We are going to end this week with a very different perspective, either on somebody's health, on the job, on the idea of traveling, on the condition of something or someone. Something will need to change. And I do mean the something in some ways, because Venus rules so many things that are going to be aesthetically pleasing. So some people, this is going to have to do with like physical projects. And we're going to be taking things down, putting up new coats of paint, putting on new layers of things. And some of us, this is truly just going to be an aesthetic adjustment. However, it is not that way for everyone. And the amount of pressure that is on Pluto and Venus this week, you will see either people declining or feeling overly pressurized, or you're going to see the spiraling effect, or you're going to see the mix of both. You're going to see some people that are spiraling. You see other people over here that are trying to maintain their resolve and their groundedness, but they can't because they have no idea when that is going to explode, when it's going to pop off, when it's going to do something else. And when that sun hits that opposition of Pluto, that can be the pop off. That revelation, that information, that thing that comes to the surface. The Plutonian person in this situation might be dealing with something very reactive and explosive from another person. And what might actually be coming around this time is us getting a whole new insight on that person. But this is a volatile, erratic, heavy, dizzy energy this week. And we will start this week with one agenda and one mindset and one way of thinking, one frame of thinking. And by the end of the week, the majority of us are going to see that thing very, very differently. And the weight, the size, the full spectrum of what that's going to be is different for everybody. For some people, this is all going to be internal, and it is going to be heavily triggered by everybody on the outside. And it's going to make people more and more and more reclusive and more reactive. The more they want to react, the more they need to become reclusive. Some people can't do both. Some people, they're all reaction. Other people, they're just going to clam up more and more and more. There is a mix of both this week, and we're chugging towards it right now. Okay. I haven't recorded the new moon in Cancer video. I'm going to do that next. And then the one that I'll record after that is actually going to be the Venus retrograde video. I'm actually recording this on Thursday, July 13th. So I'm trying to get ahead of these because I've already warned you guys, I am anticipating a disruption in my realm. And I want to be ahead of that. I don't want you guys to miss certain things, but I have also said that parts of these episodes will start to change because I am anticipating that. So at some point you will see exactly that. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the trust. Thank you for the sharing. And I do sincerely appreciate every single one of you. If you have questions, if you have concerns, message me through the Spiritually Bougie page. If for any reason I'm not responding, that means I'm either doing something like this or I'm dealing with the real world effect myself. I know that's going to happen too. So just because you know it's coming doesn't make us immune to it. Astrologers got to deal with it too. So I will see you guys soon. Subscribe.